Winter weather advisories have been expanded across parts of the Northeast, and we'll have the latest on that. They've even upped the numbers, and I haven't, and we'll talk about why. Winter storm warnings up around the Great Lake, around Lake Michigan, including Milwaukee, and also in northeastern Iowa and points northward. New winter storm watches in the northernmost plains, and the what else is new winter storm warnings in the west in California. All that and more on tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show. Brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, and Southwest Suffolk County on Long Island. They're getting ready for spring, and even though winter seems to want to still go on, they have some winter weather products for you, but they also have sand and topsoil and mulch to get your home looking terrific. 631-756-1125 is the phone number. Best prices in town, and the website is
OmniTrueValue.com. Joe.
Hi.
Hey, Joe, take a look at what I'm drinking out of tonight. This look familiar to you?
Oh, the For Easter mug. Mine shattered.
Oh, too bad.
Mine shattered in the dishwasher, so I don't even have it anymore.
Yeah, too bad.
Yeah, you guys that I worked with, you each got one.
Mm-hmm.
And mine is gone, but that's okay. I still have my Trust Me, I'm a meteorologist coffee cup, which the chairman, Scott Briller, gave me. So I use that now.
Well, we have a very interesting forecast for Friday night and Saturday morning, don't we?
Yeah, I looked at everything today, in between runs, all the rest of it, and I did my Weather in 5 video on YouTube at 4 o'clock. I figured all the forecasts were out and updated. Of course, Joe, you know the rule. As soon as I was done, I get a message from one of my snow removal guys saying they just put up a winter weather advisory for 3 to 6 inches, and I just like, what? And indeed they did. And I was perplexed. And I've made my snow forecast yesterday, and I'm bringing it up on the screen. I haven't changed it, but I'm going to probably do something tomorrow morning. I'm just going to wait at this stage of the game. I don't know. I don't know what are your thoughts on this, because I really did not go crazy over it. I just didn't.
Well, did you get a look at my map or?
No. If you
okay.
you of course can share it with the rest of the class.
Well, let me get it up and.
Oh, please do.
First of all,
go ahead.
First of all, I'm scratching my head too, because, in my opinion, through the event tomorrow night, the temperatures are going to be either at or just barely above freezing. So this looks like to me a wet snow, a clingy snow, a snow that will readily stick to the trees or the top of cars or colder surfaces like my wooden deck. But quite frankly, for many of the paved surfaces, it's either going to be a slushy coating or maybe just wet. I really don't see this to be amounting to very much, at least in the eyes of, and that's what everybody cares about. They really don't care if there's 4 or 5 inches on the grass, but if there's not much on their driveway, they say, "Oh, that's good."
Right.
And that kind of was what I'm thinking about for tomorrow night and into early Saturday.
Just let me acknowledge, Joe. First of all, welcome to everybody tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, and welcome to those of you on the chat board. Those of you lurking in the background, if you hit, there's a little thing on there that says chat. If you hit that, you can chat. I want to just acknowledge David Fuller, who hitting super chat, saying he still has his mug and he loves it. Thank you, David. And Sal Patchy, thank you for the generous super chat hit. I don't like the snow and the cold, says Sal, but bring it on. What the hell? Thank you, Joe C and Joe R, for all you do for your trusty fans here. Thank you, Sal. Really, very, very generous of you, and definitely most appreciated. Well, the other thing there are a couple of things to take into account for tomorrow night and Saturday. One is elevation. we're at the time of year now that where elevation matters. So the higher you go, then the higher the chance that you might see some road coverage. I messaged Bill Goodman when I saw that forecast and basically said why. And a couple of things that might be of note to you. Uh, they decided on those numbers because the models are doing this whole thing during the early morning hours into daybreak with this Norland trough that's coming around. So they're kind of worried about the Norland trough. The other thing is, Joe, they used uh, the buff kit tool that shows the atmosphere to be a bit colder than what some of the models are showing. And even some of the models got beefier today with the snow mounts anyway. But I just was not ready to pull the trigger on upping amounts. Not yet, anyhow.
I noticed that the on the 18Z boost for LaGuardia for the North American model, that it really is going hog wild. They put down, Joe, a quantitative precipitation amount of 1.2 inches. And remember, this started out as being, we'll get something out of this, but
Right.
doesn't look like a whole tremendous. All of a sudden now, on the 18Z, 1.2 inches of liquid precipitation.
Well, how much of that is rain? Because for some
Well,
areas, at least half of that is probably going to be rain.
well, part of the thicknesses right straight through are well below criteria. I mean, like in the lower 530s, but the T1 values precariously are hovering right around zero or ever so slightly above. Like last night, the T1s were like at LaGuardia were +2, +3. Now they're like 0 to maybe +1. So it's a colder. The 18Z is a colder run
Right.
and certainly a more dynamic in the sense that there's more precipitation. And up on the screen, everybody can see my snowfall forecast. That's what I'm going for. But notice, Joe, I make the notation with an asterisk, primarily on colder, non-paved surfaces. So you folks in Sullivan and Ulster and northern Orange County, especially north of 84, where the elevations are 800 or 1,000 feet, you very well may see up to 6 inches, up to a half a foot of snow. But a lot of that probably is on the grass as opposed to some of the roadways, which are probably just going to be more slush cover. Let me put it another way. I think that what you see here, these amounts, will be for colder surfaces. For the roadways, maybe you can slice it anywhere from 1/2 to 2/3. So let's say you get the 3 inches here in Putnam Valley on the grass. On my driveway, I would fully expect more like 1.5 inches or maybe less than 1 inch of slushy snow to accumulate during the overnight hours tomorrow night.
Well, let's also remember this is going to be overnight, so it's possible, certainly, that even some roads will get covered uh, once the traffic dies down, and we get into the hours after midnight, where most people are in bed and not driving on roadways. So,
If it's the daytime, forget it. This would be a completely different story.
oh yeah,
But we don't have the infrared and ultraviolet rays of the sun working their way through the clouds to work on the blacktop and the paved surfaces. So yes, you're absolutely right. There will be probably accumulations on. I don't want anybody to think by that notation primarily on colder. Primarily means mostly on colder surfaces, but that doesn't mean that if you look out on your driveway on Saturday morning, you ain't going to see any snow. I would hope that would be the case because I hate to shovel and blow snow. But if there is any snow, it will be much less than what you would find, let's say, on the grass or on my deck, that sort of thing.
and by the way, Susan DeAngelis, thank you for hitting Super Chat. New to the chat board too. Welcome. I'm glad you're on there and taking part in the conversation. Most appreciated. Thank you. I know a lot of you folks are also talking about the next system right behind this one for early next week. I would just say don't get too emotionally wrapped up in it yet. In spite of what the European did, I don't think anybody on Earth, there isn't a person anywhere in the coastal Northeast today that doesn't know what the European did today. Look, just don't get emotionally wrapped up in it yet. There's a few other, there's a few pieces of this puzzle that have to come together. There's a lot of support for what the European did and also what the Canadian model did as well, because they're kind of on the same page, and the icon's part of that too. So that usually means that the GFS, which is sort of in la la land, will gradually come around. But we'll talk more about that. We'll talk more about that in a moment. My turn now for my snow. Now, Joe, I did this I did my snowfall forecast map yesterday. So
right. Okay.
let me bring it up here, and you'll see. So this is what I did yesterday, where I had, I basically went trace 1, 2, 3 with a 1-inch line. You see how I have it cut, and the 2-inch line,
Yes.
and then the
Yep.
3-inch line. So I was thinking inside that red triangle box, it would be something like 3 to 5, or maybe 3 to 6, and so on. So basically, the Weather Service has doubled my amounts. so I have to figure this out. I mean, I don't change maps easily, and I don't change them often. I usually do an early call, which is what this is, and then I'll do a final call probably tomorrow morning because plenty of time. So I'm just going to wait to see if the overnight guidance remains consistent with what's been coming in during this afternoon. I particularly find it interesting that the HRRR, which actually has done pretty well with the couple of snow events recently, including the little skinny one we had back earlier this week. I'm noticing that it too is a little bit on the beefy side. So we'll wait till tomorrow morning and evaluate. Helen Bertona, Joe. Helen Bertona, one of our regulars on the chat board, hitting super chat tonight. Thank you so much, Helen. Most appreciated. Definitely generous. Thank you.
And I think by what you just said, that we will have a Joe and Joe show on Friday night.
We will have a Joe and Joe weather show tomorrow night at 7:35 p.m. Eastern time. We'll skip Saturday, and then we'll be back Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So I think that schedule works for you, right?
Yes, it does.
Oh, so I just want to say real quick, I apologize again for yesterday because I had that crash that occurred at the beginning, at the beginning of the show. Keep your fingers crossed. I rebooted everything before the show started, so hopefully we will not have a repeat performance. I will, though, however, grace everybody. Johnny Quest pointed this out to me, Joseph. Here's the latest forecast for Yosemite National Park. Are you ready?
Yes.
Well, winter storm.
Is it Yosemite? Is it Yosemite or Yosemite?
Or both. We have a winter storm warning up, of course. Again, I would really wish I could go back and find out when was the last, how long this streak is where they've had either winter storm warnings or winter storm watches up in California. It's got to be going on almost 2 weeks now. Snow. The snow could be heavy at times. Steady temperatures around 28. Wind chill values as low as 12. Breezy, south wind 20 to 25, gusting to 40. Accumulations during total daytime accumulations, and this was for today. Remember, they're 3 hours behind, so 10 to 16. Tonight, snow before 1 a.m., then snow showers after 1 a.m. The snow could be heavy at times. Some thunder is also possible. Temperatures will rise to about 35. Wind chill values as low as 16, 25 to 30, gusting to 45. New snow accumulation overnight, 22 to 28 inches. Okay.
Aye.
Friday.
Aye.
Snow showers, then rain and snow showers. Then snow showers after 1 p.m. Rain and snow could be heavy, some thunder. Snow level 8,400 feet, high near 35. New snow accumulation 9 to 13. Friday night, snow showers. The snow could be heavy at times. Some thunder is also possible. Low of 31. Snow accumulation of 14 to 20. So you get the idea here.
Yes,
So let's
I
add
do get the idea.
11 to 17 on Saturday, 9 to 13 Saturday night, 3 to 7 on Sunday. So let's see. Let's do the math. So I'm just going to split the difference. 13, 25 that's 38. 11 is 49. 17 is 66. 14 is 80. 91. And they're forecasting between now and Sunday, Joe, 96 inches of snow. 96.
And it's only a winter weather advisory.
It's a winter storm. No. It is a winter storm warning. So that is one of those forecasts that I guarantee you will never see here in the eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England area. Winter weather advisories are up, and they are down to almost, but not quite, to New York City, and they cover most of northern New Jersey along and north of Route 78. Most of the northern half of Pennsylvania, except that little finger that goes down the mountain into the Appalachians into West Virginia. Winter weather advisories in Michigan, in central and southern Michigan, northern Ohio, northeast Indiana, northern Illinois. There's some winter storm warnings up along the lakefront in eastern Wisconsin. Also warnings in western Wisconsin, northeastern Iowa, southwestern Minnesota, a few counties in South Dakota. Winter storm watches in North Dakota, westward into northern Montana, where they turn into warnings in a few counties. Advisories the rest of the way. Warnings in central and southern Idaho, western Wyoming, central Utah, western Colorado, and of course most of central and southern Oregon and California, northern California, and down the Sierra Nevadas. So it's another crazy winter weather night in the West. And here's the Weather Service digital forecast map, which has been updated. And you can see now we've got all these 5s and 6s up in the Hudson Valley, and up into the Catskills, it's about 4 to 6. Looks like you got a 3 there in Yonkers, and I think they got a 3. I guess that dot must be Manhattan, I suppose.
Boy, I tell you, Joe, we have had already a half a foot of snow up here in Putnam Valley, and for that storm, I went 4 to 6. I said, in that storm, I said, yeah, I could see us getting up to 5 or 6 inches. And to me, 4 inches, I said 4 inches. Well, I better put 4 inches in for this area, because I'm thinking that might be a stretch. And I'm looking here, 6, 6, 6, 5, 6. Boy, I tell you, they really are putting a lot of. I'm wondering if they looked at the 18Z NAM and said, hey, look at that. We better. We better up things here with the accumulations or whatever.
Well,
but again, you're talking about the Norland.
You're talking about the Norland Trough. That's well. Why don't I bring up the map? I did have the ensembles set up for
Mrs. Ensembles. Yes,
Mrs. Ensembles. I was going to go to the Ensembles first, but let's do. I'll tell you what. It's 7:55. I doubt we have enough of the new HRRR goes out 48 hours. At this time, but the 0Z, but it's not out yet. So we only go into Friday afternoon. So why don't we take a look at, I don't know, which models should we look at? You want to look at the NAM?
We could do that. Why don't also for a change, maybe we ought to look at the plumes.
Well, there you go. The plumes. That's a good idea. So, all right, here's the NAM. So, the NAM's got, you see that right here. All right, so this is at 4 in the morning. Now this is where you got to be careful, Joe, because if that Norland Trough does become an issue, you're probably going to get a band of heavy snow with that Norland Trough. So if you get under that and you get the intensity, then you might put it down. But it's right in there. If you just look how the isobars are kind of pinched up to the northwest,
right?
That's the Norland Trough, and as the low drops southeastward, that Norland Trough actually drops southward. And you can see at 10 o'clock in the morning, the NAM still has snow going on over the northern half of New Jersey and Long Island before it finally pulls out. So they're looking at that, and they were saying that the buff kit numbers were showing a colder atmosphere and also beefy snow amounts in the 5, 6, 7 inch range. So that's what they did. And since we're talking about amounts, why don't we take a look? Now, this is the new European, the 18Z European, which I had pulled up before the show started. So, I mean, it's got Bridgeport at 4.6, Waterbury 6.6, Poughkeepsie 5.9, Middletown 5.6. But you know how it figures out who gets what. But
the digital NWS forecast you just said had what, 3 inches for Yonkers, or?
Yeah, I think that's a 3 print for Yonkers.
Right.
This is the new European. So this is the 18Z European, which now has 0.8, and New York City 0.5, and Bridgewater 0.6. Now let's go back. Let's go to the 12Z. You can do that. And these are pivotal weather maps, by the way, for those of you who might be asking the question, where does he get those maps?
Where did you get those maps for the European? I can't find snowfall amounts.
Yes. And yes. I bought a commercial license which allows me to share this. Otherwise, I would be sent to prison. Okay. How do you plead for sharing European maps? So it's not inconsistent with what it did at 12Z, where it's got these bigger numbers in northern New Jersey, particularly in northwest New Jersey, and further north up the Hudson Valley. But, down closer to the coast, it really doesn't have very much. Now, let's look at the NAM. Let's switch to the NAM model. And while I'm switching, Lou Orizio, thank you for hitting Super Chat. Looking forward to seeing nothing in South Jersey. Yeah, that's about the size of it, buddy. It's if you're south of Route 78, it's hard for me to envision you getting very much out of this. So I said, let's look at the NAM. It's the 18Z NAM, which suddenly got beefy. So let's take a look at that. And this was, by the way, off overnight guidance in this morning, which actually to me looked like it was very underwhelming. So I felt okay about what I had, except for the GFS, which went off the deep end. But here's the NAM at 12Z. Now tell me something. Now, see, this is, I guess, because of the Norland Trough. At 12Z, Joe, the NAM gave 5 inches to Toms River and 8.8 inches at Long Branch, but it only gives New York City 3.1 and Yonkers 2.9. I mean, that's the NAM's squirrely way with dealing with the Norland Trough at 12Z. And you can see Waterbury 2.8, Bridgeport 1.6, Brentwood 3.8, Poughkeepsie only 3.3. Now we'll go to the 18Z and take a look. And by the way, are we the only show on YouTube, only weather show on YouTube that does the things that we do, or do the things that we do? I don't know.
I don't know either.
So here's
continue showing, because I have a question to ask you.
Yes.
But I'll wait until after you get through the discussion here with.
All right. So now in the 18Z NAM, it gave New York City 5.3, Yonkers 4.3, Bridgewater 2.4. Long Branch went from 8 inches to 1.8, and Toms River goes from 4 inches to nothing. And meanwhile, Bridgeport 0.7, Waterbury 3.2, 4.5 for Poughkeepsie. I recognize the fact that it did what it did in terms of the numbers in goosing them up a little bit, but I just did not feel confident in wanting to take them up based on what any of the models did. The only other thing I would tell you is let's go to the HRRR, because, as I said, the HRRR has been actually pretty decent lately. It gets on, the HRRR sucks most of the time, but then it gets on this, like broken clocks are right twice a day, unless it's a military clock, and then it's right once a day. But it does get on streaks every once in a while where it handles certain things fairly well.
Well, we're only 5 hours into the 0Z, so.
See, now here's
That's not
the
going to do much.
right. This is the 18Z. So the 18Z, interestingly enough, it has the max snowfall, Joe, in the northern half of, north of 195. Bridgewater 5.6, 5.8 in New York City, 4.9 Brentwood, 7.2 at Yonkers. But look what it gives Poughkeepsie, 1.8. 4.9. It's got low amounts north, and actually even has measurable down to Philadelphia and Tom's River here. So eh, I don't get it. That's the thing. A lot of times these snow maps, sometimes there's a certain air of consistency between them that you kind of figure out after you look at them long enough. But today's are just crazy. I don't know how you would base any forecast with confidence. I'm just going to say this. I guess it just came to my head right now. I'm thinking that there's going to be a lot of busts in both directions with this. Then you're going to have some places that are going to be forecast and they're not going to hit their numbers, and you're going to have places that have low that maybe or have low numbers in their forecast, and they're going to hit those. I mean, look at Joe. Look at the GFS. This is the 18Z GFS. 5.4 in New York City, 5.7 in Yonkers, 9.5 in 9.5 Middletown, 7.4 in Poughkeepsie, 8 inches Waterbury, 9 Bridgeport, 3.2. There's no rhyme or reason to any of this stuff.
Yeah, there isn't. So now,
So what did you
wait
want
a
to ask
minute.
me?
Yeah, I'm going to ask you that in a second. I just want to take a look at one more thing here, and give me about 20 seconds because I just want to look
All right, I'm going to load.
at
Meanwhile,
something.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to load the HRRR map, which is not out far enough, but maybe by the time we both get through all the rest of the weather, we might have more of it here. So far, it's out at 0Z. It's out 7 hours. So,
Right, right.
um,
Now,
okay.
the thing that's being talked about with the Norland Trough, I'm looking here at the FGen, the 18Z NAM run
All right. You
or
want to you
12
want to share that?
12Z. I'll do that. That's not what I was originally asking about though, but I'm going to get to that in a few moments. Let me just um, get to over here and over there. There you go. This is what you're all seeing on the screen now is the 18Z NAM that has been, beating the what out of the immediate tri-state area Saturday morning with that potential pesky Norland trough. Now, look, all of the FGen, all of the atmospheric energy, as we pointed out last night, is out over the ocean. Now, this right up here, Joe, this little circle in northwestern New Jersey might, he says, be an indication of the Norland trough, the NAM picking up on a little bit of atmospheric energy in the vicinity of the New York metropolitan area at 7 a.m. on Saturday morning. In fact, if we jump ahead, come on, jump. Everything's moving slowly here on my computer tonight. I don't know why, but it's just all right. Where am I? This is 42 hours. So let me just manually push to 45. 45, it's gone.
Right.
So there's just a little bit of something there at 12Z on Saturday morning, but it's gone now and is replaced by a relatively tranquil atmosphere, which I might point out a minus 12 Celsius temperature at 700 millibars. So it's cold upstairs, certainly cold
Right.
enough for flaky weather.
So
But
Robert Woods. Hang on one second. I just want to. So Robert Woods. I guess I'm going to have to do the warm ground snow intensity lecture again. So just to repeat, I guess for the umpteenth time, at this time of year, yeah, the air temperatures are whatever they are between 35 and 40, but just like what happened back a week and a half ago with the accumulating snows that fell, intensity drives everything. And if you get a band of moderate snow or stronger that gets overhead, it will drop the ground. It will drop the 2 meter temperatures down to 32, 33, 31, right in that range, and your snow will stick to not just the colder surfaces. So see, here's the issue. If with these things is that Where'd you go, Joe?
Well, I'm still here.
Oh, hold on.
I stopped sharing, if that's what you're
Oh,
wondering.
okay. There, yeah. We have. Oh, look it down as a black screen. I got to put you back. Um, if you get intensity, those temperatures get corrected, and that's
Right.
how that makes forecasting an extra challenge because you have to figure out, are you going to have do you have the dynamics for intensity or do you not? And the answer is we don't know until we get there. All right, there's an
Right.
issue, Mr. Rayo.
Yes.
This happened the last time. Remember the last time when we lost you at the end of the show and I could not get you back?
Oh, yes. But at
Okay.
least you got the sponsor, and that'll make the sponsor happy.
Right. So do me a favor.
Yes.
Go back in the share mode and then go out of the share mode and let's see what happens. And
Okay.
if it blows up the show, it blows up the show.
Well, I hope not. But anyway, all right. I'll go back to share mode. So now what you should be seeing on the screen now is the GFS
Yeah,
map.
see, I'm seeing a black screen.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so I guess the only other thing we can do is if you close out of the Zoom meeting and then
And come
oh wait,
back.
hold on. All right, just a second. Let's see. Let me see if I can oh, there you are. Okay, you came back.
Oh,
Yay!
hi. Hi,
Hi.
everybody. How you
All right, I'm
doing?
sorry. So you were saying about you were saying about the F gen.
Well, the thing is, you're absolutely right. With the storm that we had last week that dropped, generally speaking, 4 to 6 inches most everywhere around the immediate tri-state area, including my own house, we had that F-gen, we had that Omega, that atmospheric energy line that came barreling through during the overnight hours and really did push the intensity of the snow so much so that temperatures dropped to a few degrees below freezing. Snow stuck readily everywhere, including on paved surfaces. I want to stress we don't have that with this system
Right.
tomorrow night. All of that energy is out to sea. So I'm not sure whether or not we'll be able to get enough intensity to lower those temperatures below. Because generally, here in the lower Hudson Valley, Joe, if you follow along the guidance, it's 32 to 38 from north to south, temperature wise. And so, and yeah, but here's the interesting thing. I want to tell you what the tabular NAM MOS forecast. I'm saying for White Plains now. This is the 18Z run. Now we've seen on the maps the 18Z going hog wild all of a sudden, with many places, with the accumulations and the precipitation being bumped up. The conditional snow amounts, and that's on the NAM MOS guidance. I want to tell you what the snow is on the NAM 18Z for White Plains.
Okay.
As of tomorrow morning, of course, 0. As of 12Z Saturday morning, 0. As of 12Z on Sunday morning, 0. There is across the board, there is no accumulation mentioned on the MOS. Now, I don't understand why this is. I'm expecting from all of this I'm seeing on the maps at least a 2 or a 4 for White Plains. 0, 0,
Excuse
0,
me.
straight across. Bless you. Straight across. So then I said, okay, let's see what the GFS says. The GFS. Now, this is actually the NAM I just mentioned is based upon the 12Z run. They do not do an 18Z. So I'm correcting myself here. So this was not the 18Z run of the NAM. They only do on the MOS 2 runs a day on the 12Z and the 0Z, but it was 0 straight across the board. So now let's go to I'm going over now to the GFS. This is based upon the 18Z, again for White Plains. And what is it, Joe? 0, 0. Nothing indicated for snow accumulation on the GFS for the month. Now, why is that? I don't understand. Now, one other thing, let me go to the GFSX. That's the extended 7-day outlook. They also give numbers for possible snow, conditional snow numbers. So I go to that, again, for White Plains. And what am I seeing? I'm seeing on Saturday, oh, thank goodness, we do have a number, 2. So White Plains, they're giving a 2 out for on the extended forecast on the conditional snow amount. I just want to
Right.
see, you said that Poughkeepsie, as you go north, that there's less
On one of the
Poughkeepsie.
models, yeah, it gave less. Yeah, gave less up there, and then it has the the band in the middle.
Right. Well,
Northern New Jersey, New
Friday,
York City, Long Island getting the most.
Friday they give 1 for Poughkeepsie, and Saturday they give 2. I mean, these are not humongous, giant numbers in the 3 to 5 or 3 to 6 category that we're seeing broad brush for virtually the entire lower Hudson Valley. But these numbers are, if I may use a $5 term, there's a paucity of snow accumulation on these numbers, and I don't, for the life of me, understand why. Usually these conditional numbers.
There's a lot of conflicting guidance, obviously. You
The
know,
conditional numbers usually are like off the wall. You say, okay, we're going to get 2 to 4. What are the conditions? And the conditionals are saying like 6 to 8. But now we're going the other way here, 0, 0, or 1 or 2. I don't understand it either.
now I'm while you're talking, I'm looking at the plumes, the
Yes.
plumes, and the 21Z plumes are out already. So I just checked. Here's an now with what you just said that you can't understand it. I'm just going to tell you that I'm looking at the numbers at Bridgeport, White Plains. Uh, uh, I don't know what that is. OXC, southwest of Waterbury. What is that? Oxford, Connecticut. I don't know. Oxcart.
Um,
I don't know. Anyway, whatever it is. Um, then I'm also looking at Poughkeepsie. I pulled up Newark. I'm going to go up to Monticello, except for Monticello, where it gives 3.92. I put Islip, East Hampton, Bridgeport, as I said. Every single one of them has 2 and a fraction. Now, I ask you, how are you going to see? Are you going to see the same amount of snow at Poughkeepsie as you are at White Plains, as you are at New York, as you are on Long Island, in Islip, even Kennedy? It gives. They're all the same. Every one of them 2, 2. I'll just go down to south of Long Branch. Even here, Joe, an inch and a quarter. Trenton, just northwest of Trenton, it gives just under 2 inches there. So I'm beside myself. There's so much conflicting guidance. You know what? I'm glad I left mine alone. I'm glad I left my forecast alone now, and we'll take it from there.
I don't think I will. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do anything changing my forecast tomorrow, or at least the map. It's weird. It really is. I'm wondering whether or not they're doing this. They're seeing the Norland Trough and they're saying we better put a CYA out. And if those of you, if you can figure out what CYA is, a CYA forecast, just to be on the safe side, just to be. I know
Yeah.
I've been burned on a Norland Trough a couple of times in my illustrious forecasting career, and maybe that's what they're worried about. They're worried about we better put out enough to cover ourselves in case something gets out of hand, and that might be the reason.
David Scott is using the Honeymooners Marathon model, and he says that he's sticking with his prediction that Central Park will not get 6 inches of snow until after the Honeymooners Marathon on New Year's Day 2024. Uh, Rishi,
Yes.
Rishi Sharma, hey, you know what? That's as good a model as any. Rishi Sharma hitting super chat. Thank you, Rishi, for hitting the tip jar. Most appreciated. All right, why don't we let's run through what's going on weather-wise with all surrounding all of this, and then we can set up and start looking at the next one, which I almost don't want to do until this one is done, to tell you the
Right.
truth.
Right.
But anyway, we got the watches and warnings map. We already did this before or earlier, so why don't we? I'll just switch over to the satellite view. The winds, well, I thought the winds would ease today, but I noticed that the gusts were still flying around for a while into this afternoon, especially along the coast. But the big storm offshore is now off the satellite view on the right, and we're in a clear patch, and you can see clouds, the stuff that's over the Great Lakes and back up into Minnesota and North Dakota. That's sliding eastward. We've got a separate area of showers and some thunderstorms, northeast Texas and into southern Arkansas. This is where SPC had a marginal risk for severe weather yesterday. And meanwhile, look at that big blob of clouds. And on the left, Joe, you could see the gigantic swirl in the Pacific Ocean that's driving a ton of moisture into California and on up into the Northwest. It just doesn't stop over there.
No.
It's I don't know. I find it a marvel almost to just kind of watch how that has all happened this winter. Uh, you sort of had Noah's Ark, if you want to use that, the idea of 40 days and 40 nights, and just throw in a little bit of snow in there. Here's the SPC risk tonight. The marginal risk in northeast Texas, southern Arkansas, and northwest Louisiana, and then a small area in and around Del Rio in Texas, near the border with Mexico. And for tomorrow, SPC has a marginal risk in southern Georgia and in the Florida Panhandle, going back to, well, I guess about Pensacola or maybe just a hair west of there. And on day 3, I'm guessing they probably don't have anything on day 3. Oh, I take it back. Slight risk in eastern Oklahoma and Arkansas, and a marginal risk that surrounds that. So that kind of tells you that the next trough with the next system is a bit of a powerhouse. And here's the radar tonight. Loaded. I mean, look at that. Quite a bit of snow there on the radar around the Great Lakes in northeastern Illinois, into eastern Wisconsin, over Lake Michigan, and moving into southwestern Michigan at all. Some rain central and southern Indiana down into Kentucky. Some downpours in central and southeast Georgia, extending back into northwest Mississippi. Then we got the boomers with the boomers from southwestern Arkansas to just south of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Some strong storms there. And look at California. I mean, just absolutely loaded with precip. Not quite down to L.A., but not far away either, and then going all the way up into Oregon, and all that heavy precip that's moving on the other side of I-5 into the Sierra Nevadas. I mean, they're just going to get clobbered. They're really seriously worried about the impact of the heavy rains that are coming. That could be on the order of 10 to 20 inches of rain on top of 6 to 10 feet of snow, or however many feet that they've got out there.
Maybe they'll actually cancel the Oscars on Sunday.
Well, they're talking about, I mean, they were talking about on some of the news stories that I saw about collapsing roofs, and, they were out there trying to get, all the snow off the roof, because with the rain coming, it would just add extra weight and cause roofs to collapse. They were talking with people that were stuck in their homes, Joe, for 11 days.
Right.
I mean, that has got to be difficult. WPC, the 7-day precip totals. Take a look at that. That yellow there is 15 to 20 inches up and down the Sierra Nevadas, and a lot of that is going to be rainfall rather than snow, especially after this system for tonight goes by, because they start to run out of cold air there. And also big rains up and down the coast of California, even down as far south as San Diego in the inch to an inch and a half zone there. In the east, in the east, particularly over our neck of the woods, WPC has nudged in what looks like a 2.5 inch liquid area, little blob there, 2 to 2.5 inches, coastal northeast Jersey to New York City and western Long Island, and 1.5 inches. Now remember, this is two system. There are two systems in here. We've got tomorrow's. So you figure maybe half of that is tomorrow, and then half of that is with the next one. I'm not sure. But ample precip up into New England, 3/4 inch to 1.5 inches across much of the South Atlantic states and back across the Gulf states, except right along the immediate Gulf Coast. WPC has nudged that 50% line a little closer to New York City. It is just north and west of New York City, and maybe in northern Westchester, that 50% line crosses there into north central Connecticut. The red is all 95 to 100% for at least 2. And then if we look at the probability of at least 4, which I thought was kind of interesting, the WPC's got a 50% probability of at least 4 into northwest New Jersey, and not quite to you, but not far from you either.
Well, okay.
I'm just saying.
All right. All righty.
I'll widen it out so we can take a look at that, all extending back northwestward into North Dakota. Again, this is the probability for at least 4. And then when we look in the west, of course, it's the Cascades, it's the Sierra Nevadas, it's the mountains in central and northern Idaho, western Wyoming, down through central Utah, western Colorado, all showing some big amounts. I'm sorry, the high probabilities for at least 4. And if I bring the snow map back up here, take a look at some of the amounts expected around the Great Lakes. Looks like much of Michigan gets 4 to 6 inches, except the north, where it tails off a bit. Some 10 and 12-inch amounts in a fairly large area in Wisconsin, including 10 in Madison, 11 in Milwaukee, 5 for Chicago. Further north and west, some big numbers moving up through Minnesota, Minneapolis 9, higher amounts as you go north. Fargo 13 in North Dakota, so they do well. Bismarck 6. And then as we go to the west, we'll let the map load here. Hopefully it will.
And when you're done, I've got the very latest release today, the drought map. And it's interesting to take a look at the west after all of this mayhem that they've gone through.
Mark G wants to know if you're in Connecticut.
No, I'm not in Connecticut. I'm 50 miles north of the armpit of the universe, Midtown Manhattan. I'm up in Putnam,
well, there
Putnam
goes
Valley,
our,
New York.
There go our Manhattan fans. All right, here are some, all these double-digit prints out in the West. And, look, there's now how do you get this number is so high, Joe. They actually have 103-inch per print and 121. I mean, we've pulled these maps up before where we've seen some big numbers. I think this may be the first time where we've gone to triple digits.
In the hundreds.
Wow. That's just insane. 121 inches is 10 feet.
Yep.
I see there's a little more of a reasonable 77 up here as you move into the northern part of the state. I can accept that. And the poor Cascades, the biggest print that they could put on the map is a 34. All right, it's nuts. Okay, so, you still have sharing capability, so go ahead.
Well, it's up. It's up.
All right, hang on. I got to switch you. Nope, that's the wrong one.
77.
Now I got it. WABC.
BC. So.
Okay, go ahead. You got the
if
drought.
If you remember last spring, and I'm talking specifically about May and June, I would have to say, and I'm not pulling any punches here, the area that you're seeing that I'm outlining with my cursor, this whole area was red, or in some cases dark red, a D3 or a D4, extreme drought to exceptional drought, especially so in California. And look at California now. California doesn't even have, throughout its entire boundary or limits, California does not even have a D3 or extreme drought rating. The best it can manage is severe drought, D2, up in parts of the north. I don't even understand after all of this how they have drought, period, in California, but still being listed as, in some cases, severe, moderate, or abnormally dry. But right here, right in the central part of the state, is where it's all white and there's no drought to speak of. What a tremendous... Arizona, another example. I was in Arizona last May when they were praying. Some of them are literally on their knees saying, "We need water. We need what? It's terrible. It's so dry." Well, look at this. No more drought, or hardly any drought. Only around the periphery or the edges do you see abnormally dry, or maybe in one or two spots, severe drought. But most of Arizona is pretty well drought free now. The only place really central, right in the middle of Oregon, we have a little area here that is listed as exceptional drought, surrounded by extreme drought. But other than that, elsewhere, there's drought, but it's not really all that horrendous. Now, the one state that is different from all the others that is really covered in this is Kansas. And let me show you this here. Here's Kansas. And you could see, I would have to say, Joe, that at least half of the state of Kansas is in what is being referred to as exceptional drought, bordered to the north and northeast by extreme drought. But elsewhere, in the northeast part of Kansas, there's hardly any drought to speak of. So, but right here, that is the one spot. If you're going to talk about drought in this country, it's no longer California or Arizona that's getting the crown, so to speak. It seems to be Kansas, and that's what's going on in the drought world. If you, just in case you're interested in the eastern United States, east of the Mississippi, I'm not even going to do a close-up. You could see east of the Mississippi, virtually everybody drought-free. Florida, yeah, they have a bit of drought down there, and right along the Gulf Coast too, but most everywhere else, drought-free here in the eastern half of the United States. So there is the latest. This is the very latest drought map, the very latest drought monitor as of today, March the 9th, 2023.
All right, let's go to the next one, which is for early next week, which, of course,
yes,
still don't quite have a handle on all of this. But I've got the upper air, and in fact, it's probably better if I use the full U.S. instead. So here's our system here, this upper low that by tomorrow afternoon is sitting somewhere in northwest Ohio or north central Ohio, right at the tip of Lake Erie there. That is our system for Friday night and Saturday. Joe, it's not a half bad looking upper low either. I mean, it's cut off and it actually strengthens. That's kind of interesting. Here's the 18Z. So we go from a 537 height down to a 530, 52, 49, 46, 43, 40, 37. It's like a 532-ish upper low. So it does actually strengthen as it heads southeastward. So that's a plus. And then if you follow now it takes a track off the New Jersey coast, and you see it here by Saturday afternoon, but it's moving southeastward and continuing offshore instead of dropping down there and then sort of lifting up to the northeast to the Gulf of Maine, because it's digging too far to the east for this. Yeah, this is going to become a major storm, but it's going to be well offshore. But it does set up the next one, and you can see the wrapped up upper low in North Dakota that follows it on Sunday. Again, I'm using the European that moves into Wisconsin, and then I'm going to switch to the 0Z. This is through 90 hours. We've got a two closed upper low over Lake Michigan. So we'll go back to the 12Z. So it's actually deeper, interestingly enough. It's actually stronger on that 18Z run. So there you go. There's the upper low. And now it's going to dive southeastward and basically just kind of reform just off the New Jersey, Long Island coastline, and it closes off right near Nantucket and then just sits there for the better part of 12 to 15 hours or so before it starts to swing out to the southeast and then to the east. So it's a very dynamic upper air setup here, and it's different from what we're having for tonight, for Friday night into Saturday, because that goes out. So the Europeans got a very dynamic look to things. The Canadian on the upper air is not too different, okay? It's not exactly the same, but it's not that different, just maybe a little bit further north, but has sort of the same idea. The GFS on the GFS is probably a little weaker. It gets to the same place, but it just takes longer to get there. It has an open feature up along the Great Lakes, so it has a weaker trough that's coming in. Eventually does cut off the way the other models have it. It just takes it more to the north and stays more open. It doesn't dig as far south as the European, and I think that's the primary difference Now, if we look at the ensembles, I'm going to bring up the Eastern U.S. and we're going to use the lower dynamics ensemble member mean sea level pressure, folks. I mean, we're a class act here that we use the ensemble member pressure centers. So here's the first system. So the mean position are those dark isobars, and all those red numbers are where all the different members put the low on the low on Sunday morning, and you can see they're fairly tightly clustered, well off the New Jersey coast. The primary near Pittsburgh. Suddenly you got all the secondary development. It's offshore, and out it goes. Now here comes this again is the GFS. Here comes the one for Monday. You've got the lower pressures down in Alabama and Mississippi, low forms off North Carolina, and there you have a surface low that's sitting well east of the Virginia coast, but then curls northwestward toward Cape Cod. That's pretty much what the European did, and the European operational did. If you look at the European ensembles, they're not that different. I just brought the same. It's for the same time frame, Joe. It has maybe it's a little bit further to the left, but and most of the members are concentrated near the center. But the ensemble European and GFS are not that they're not that different. Same idea. So maybe give the GFS another couple of runs to sort of catch up to the Europeans' idea, because I'm thinking that the European and the Canadian being on the same page is usually a sign that's the. Remember, Tony Gigi said, when the Canadian and European are on the same page, you need to pay attention.
Well, the European by Monday afternoon, all eyes will be trained on the area just to the east of Cape Hatteras, the outer banks of North Carolina. Then that system starts to move, as you pointed out, Joe, to the north and east. Actually, it goes, if you follow the European, it goes way out, way out. But in fact,
and then curls back in.
Right. I would have to say it's at least 250, maybe 300 miles east of Atlantic City by Tuesday morning. And you say to yourself, all right, so much for that. That's going. But as you just mentioned, then it curls up and around. And by the time we get to Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday evening, it's practically sitting on Cape Cod or Nantucket or Martha's Vineyard. And then that's where it's going to stay for a while. It's just going to circle round and round and round. And then finally, if you believe, again, the European take it at face value, come Wednesday night or Wednesday evening, the system says, okay, I've had enough of this. And instead of going, as you would expect, northeast, let's say toward Nova Scotia, where does it go? It drops almost straight southeast out over the Atlantic Ocean, gets to a position somewhere like, I don't know, 300-400 miles east of Norfolk, Virginia, Thursday afternoon, and says, okay, goodbye, and zooms away out over the ocean. Crazy track, but again, the system in its own right is projected to be quite strong, very strong. In fact, they've got at its peak during Tuesday evening, late Tuesday evening.
I have the European up now, what you described. So this is the first one. And by the way, the purple. See, now here's the thing with the Norland Trough. Just to go back on the first one, the purple, Joe, because I went crazy trying to figure out the colors, and I was looking at the soundings. I didn't think it was sleet, and in fact, that's a band of heavier snow when it's in that purple, and it does show that for tomorrow, Saturday morning. You see it there over New York City and Long Island before the low pulls out. Now here's what you described, so I'll just bring it down a little further south here. I got to make the map a little smaller so I can get it in the screen. There you go.
And this thing, let's not pull any punches here. I mean, Monday morning,
there's your low, and then it goes up and around, and all that purple there that's blinding snow that the European is forecasting from the eastern Massachusetts coast, across central and southern Connecticut, across Long Island, down into New Jersey. And this is, by the way, on Tuesday during the day. So it'll have to be blinding to accumulate, but this is what the European says. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, at its peak, you just said with the blinding snow. Yeah. At its peak, let's say later Tuesday into Tuesday evening, it peaks according to the European at 969 millibars. Now that's near Cape Cod, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard. 969. In case you have a aneroid barometer hanging on the wall of your office or your home, that is equivalent to 28.61 inches of mercury. So you could see right there, that is a very, very deep storm that the European is red flagging for later Tuesday and Tuesday night. Thankfully, it's not coming straight up toward New York or Long Island. It's well east and north of us, but still, I'm sure we'll be getting some rather gusty, strong winds on the backside. And I'd say anybody who is just to the north and northeast of that storm, if it's cold enough, yeah, there's going to be some snow of significance.
And by the way, Monday, okay, Monday for much of the day, it's not going to be doing very much. It's not until we get to Monday afternoon that you start to see heavy rain moving up through New Jersey and southeastern Pennsylvania, and heavy snow breaking out in northwest New Jersey and northeastern Pennsylvania. It's Monday night that area begins to expand, but it's probably along the coast. It's going to rain along the immediate coast for a good part of the night and not change over if the European is right. It really starts to change over sometime around 4 a.m. The only thing I would say is that in situations like this where you have a rapidly deepening storm, oftentimes the rain changes over to snow faster by a few hours than what the model has, because the model just can't seem to handle it fast enough in terms of the deepening. Because I mean, this thing does explode. So,
right. And
look,
you're right, because on Monday, people will be hearing about this big storm on Monday. And for most of Monday, you're right. Not much is going to be happening. But remember again what we just said, that the storm from the outer banks of North Carolina goes on a track pretty well east of the coast. And then later Monday, as things suddenly begins to intensify and wind up, guess what happens? It begins to curve to the north and then to the northwest. What we old timers refer to as Rosenblum's rule, where an intensifying storm, depending upon how intense it gets, does curve to the left. And this thing looks like it's going to curve big time to the left later on Monday and Monday night. And that is when you're going to start seeing the meteorological fireworks happen. And again, Joe, we're still well away or far out from that time frame. Thursday is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So we're 4 days away. And so it's difficult to pin down exactly the precise amount of snow or the temperatures, really, as to who's going to get what in terms of heavy snow or heavy rain. And once again, we point out that before we start buying into all of this, we still have to wait for the first little creeper to move on out. And that's the one that we'll be watching for tomorrow night and Saturday. Where that goes, precisely how strong it gets and the track that it takes, will eventually determine what we're going to have to deal with on Monday and Tuesday of next week.
yeah, Michael Hou, Michael who? I don't know if I'm saying it right or how. I apologize for mispronouncing it. Yeah, I pulled up a few of the soundings, and I mean, it's kind of close in that bottom part of the atmosphere where it's at freezing or just barely above freezing. But I was trying to figure it out through the colors too in terms of the scale, and the purple that's for mixed and the purple that's for heavy snow are almost identical. So I'm just going to assume that and then based on the soundings, I didn't see anything that was clear cut to me that it was sleet. So I'm just going to assume that with the storm that deep, what you're seeing here is heavy snow that's in the comma head that's going to be around the top of that storm. When you look at that on a satellite view, it'll look like a giant comma. So somebody's going to get under that comma head. Look, as far as this system is concerned, if this winds up looking something like this, somebody's going to get buried. Okay, no question. If it winds up looking something like this, there are going to be some big snow amounts in parts of the Northeast. I can't tell you exactly where, but there will be.
And isn't that what we have been half kiddingly saying all through this winter? It's going to happen. It's going to happen either in March or April or late in the season when you finally said, okay, that's it, it's all over for the wintertime, and then Mother Nature says, oh, really? Well, guess what? And here we are, looking possibly at a significant snowmaker in the eye. But again, we're not really exactly sure who's going to get the snow and who's going to get the rain. It could very well be. Well, let's take them one at a time. First one comes tomorrow night. We'll see what. And Joe and I, for a change, we're actually the low people on the bar here. I mean, everybody else seems to be going much higher than us, and I guess again covering themselves because of that potential northern trough on Saturday morning. I saw one forecaster here locally, Joe, who didn't get into the discussion of what a northern trough is. All he said was, "We're expecting a second burst Saturday morning," and leaving it as that, and leaving it to the imagination as to what that burst may be. So we shall see.
Timothy Veltman says, Timothy, because we're like an hour and I don't know how many minutes into this show, but give me a second here. Just give me a moment. Let's just see how far the HRRR is. I'm just kind of curious. That's the 12Z. I don't want the 12Z. I want the 0Z. It's 37 hours out. Okay, so this takes us to what? Saturday at this might take us out far enough. I'm just going to bring up the I'm going to bring up the HRRR snow map. Then I'm going to see if we could get one of Timothy's storms that he's suggesting to look at here, and then we're going to go. Then we're going to end the show.
Jason Kaplan on the chat board says this would be an awesome finale to a winter where we've had nothing. And Leon Pravitsky follows up with, "I think I'll have a wet dream over that." Too much information, Jesus. Leon.
Well, you know what? I honestly, Joe, I was just thinking about this. I kind of want it to happen just so that I don't have, so I could stop having to block people. I mean, because they keep just coming on and saying stupid shit. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to say that, but that's what it is. Whoops, sorry, beep. My God, we've been doing the show for so long. I think that's the first time I used that word.
Yes, well.
All right. So here's the
It's been a long winter.
It really has. So here's the HRRR. Here we go. Hold on. It's not out all the way. It is out all the way, but I don't have it scaled out all the way. I'm trying to switch maps here. So let's go to that for the close-up. And we'll let it load so we can see what the HRRR is doing. And I'm looking at this only because lately it's done pretty well.
Got the hot hand.
Well, listen. If this map is correct, it'll come fairly close to what I did on mine, because it only gives like 1.6 for Yonkers, 1.5 inches for Brentwood, 9/10 for New York City, which would put it over the top, so it won't be the least snowiest winter on record. Poughkeepsie 1.7, Middletown 6.6. Yeah, it does have the hot hand, so however long that lasts. And now let's go to let me go to, see, Timothy Veltman, our Timothy Veltman. Hang on, get the zoom. So he was saying here, he gave some years. 2000. All right, I'm going to go to 3/14/17. Okay, because I'm tired. So this is March 14th of 2017. Because the Adirondacks apparently got hammered by something on that. He said the heavy snow axis for those was very far inland with 30 to 50 inch amounts in the Adirondacks. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. All right. All right, so we got primary in southern West Virginia, secondary already starting near Hatteras. All right, next map.
What day is this, Joe? Or
this is Tuesday, March 14th, 2017. Now, I do see it started snowing I see moderate snow there in Newark, 28, if that's Newark. So it did start to snow in the near the coast, and there's a 988 low east of New Jersey. Still only in the upper 20s though. In most of New Jersey, I wonder how much snow fell in the area for this. A 979 low, Joe, sitting east of Sandy Hook and south of the South Shore of Long Island, and then it went right over Montauk as a 79. So that's pretty wrapped up low here. Next map, and there you go to Boston, and then northeast into the Gulf of Maine. So on those other 2 years. Those were years where we didn't see much of any snow. Those were 2007. That was not a good snow year down. That was also a minimal snow year down. It was under 10 inches for the whole season for 2006, 2007. So let's go 214. We'll look at just one of those. 214. Oh, February 14th. We always like to accommodate here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. 2007. February 14th, Valentine's Day. I think I kind of remember this one. There was a lot of sleet with this. There's your low, an 86. It was a coast hugger all the way up.
Wait a minute. What was the date again? What year?
This was February 14th of 2007.
Aha. Aha. If you may remember, I was talking about that particular storm as the latest in the season that I went without having to use my snowblower. And I said that on that day, we picked up here in Putnam Valley 3 inches of snow and sleet. So I was forced to take the snowblower out. So yeah, I remember that storm.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well. I just realized I had us on the screen. I didn't hear. So this is what it looked like on the surface. So here you go. Up we go. There's your coastal low. Pretty much a coast hugger all the way up. It was pretty cold. I mean, it was very cold. I'm looking at temperatures here in the teens and 20s all the way down into Virginia. You had to go down into southern Virginia and start to get to 30s and 40s. So, but that low kind of just moved along. It didn't do any kind of counterclockwise loop. And I'll just go back to 17 again. What was that? March
14th.
14th. Yep.
13 to 14, 2017.
Yes. So here you have it. This was another one that was kind of a coast hugger. Got to about New York City, Long Island, then went up to Boston and then into the Gulf of Maine. So this one I think is probably, if we're able to look at the upper air with this, we'll probably have a slightly different upper air because of the fact that this one does cut off and it does do like a counterclockwise loop out there that takes about 12 to 15 hours to execute. So that could make all the difference in the world in terms of the total outcome.
Right.
So I don't know.
We had more cold air to work with those storms and those past storms. And I think you have to admit, Joe, that we have a modest, underscore that word, modest amount of cold air to work with tomorrow night's system and the one that's coming up next Tuesday. Right. But again, the one thing that next Tuesday system has that I don't think the one tomorrow night will have, most definitely, will be the fact that it will have dynamics associated with it. And if it can certainly cool the atmosphere with a lot of forcing, so to speak, that next Tuesday certainly is the storm that could do it.
Yeah, Todd B4567 says this was the same time Redfield, New York got 141 inches in about 7 days. Nice. Okay, you know what? We're coming up close to the top of the hour, so I'm wiped out, and I think Joe's wiped out, and we're going to do a show tomorrow night. So we're going to save Briller Jeopardy. We got two waiting that the chairman sent us. So we will get to those when things calm down a little bit. But tonight we're going to be done because we'll be here tomorrow night at 7. A rare, this winter anyway, a rare Friday night show. So 7:35 tomorrow night. Thank you for the 160 likes. Thank you for those of you who hit the tip jar tonight, the super chat tip jar.
Rishi Sharma, Louis Cerizio, Helen Bertona, Suzanne DeAngelis, Sal Patchy, Bogey's Bees. I love Bogey's Bees. And David Fuller. Thank you all for, like Joe just mentioned, hitting the tip jar tonight on Super Chat. And we'll see you all, I guess, tomorrow night.
Okay. Nighty night, everybody.
Bye-bye.